hundreds of years ago, your brain had one job: stay alive long enough to reproduce and keep the species going. And honestly, it did a damn good job. The systems that worked best, they survived longer, they reproduced more, and over time, those systems were reinforced, refined, and hardwired into our way of being. But here's the problem. The world's changed, and your brain, it didn't. Those same systems that once kept you alive are now the ones that are convincing you to procrastinate, avoid discomfort, and talk yourself out of doing hard things. Today we're breaking down your brain's chemistry and wiring, why it lies to you, how it convinces you to wait until later or put it off until tomorrow, and exactly what you need to do to let it stop running the show.
Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're talking about your brain's operating systems today. The ones that it has spent hundreds of years evolving and refining and fine-tuning in order to keep you and the species alive. The problem is, we live in a very different world now than we did hundreds of years ago. And those same things that kept us alive and kept us going and allowed us to reproduce are the same ones that are actually getting in our way now. And I want to reinforce the fact that your brain's not broken. Your brain is efficient. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. Your brain is trying to find the answer to questions like, how do I stay safe? How do I conserve energy? How do I avoid discomfort? Because those were all strategies that kept you alive years ago. And to your brain, doing hard things means uncertainty, it means effort, and it means possible failure. And to the brain that was built just to keep you alive, all of those things are a threat. But the problem is, while years ago, when the things that your brain would interpret as a threat, like being eaten by a lion or starving to death, were legitimate threats, your brain is applying that same logic to that email that someone sent you that was worded a little bit weird, or the deadline you have coming up on Friday, or the new project that you want to pursue but you're afraid of looking kind of stupid. Your brain is applying the same logic that it applied to a legitimate threat to all of these really non-threatening, mundane parts of our lives. And while it was once really useful, now it's kind of holding you back. And so what I want to do today is I'm going to break down a few different lies that your brain is telling you based on the way that it evolved, based on the systems that it has built over time. I'm going to break down for you a few of the key roadblocks that we run into, how this was useful years ago, why this system is in place in the first place, and what we can do to flip the script and stop letting our brain get in our way now. And the first one I want to get into is dopamine versus effort. I think dopamine is one of those chemicals that is sometimes misunderstood. I think a lot of us see dopamine as this reward chemical in our brain, and that's actually not what it is. Dopamine is actually the chemical of motivation. Dopamine is what pushes you forward to take action and do things. Back when survival was the goal, dopamine is what pushed you towards finding things like food, shelter, and connection, all of those basic necessities that keep you alive. If something didn't reward you quickly, it usually wasn't worth your energy. Because back then you were looking for things that gave you immediate payoff, like finding food, like finding a warm place to sleep, like finding other people in a tribe that are going to accept you in. All of these things were more or less immediate. And so we were hardwired to be motivated to seek out things that give us that instant gratification. Because back then, instant gratification is what kept us alive. It's what meant that we found the resources we needed and we're safe. The problem is now, we live in a world where a lot of those instant gratification, survival necessities are already in place. We're not seeking out resources the way that we would have to back then. The way that our world works now is a lot of the things that we are working towards achieving, a lot of the things that we want to have, are actually not instant gratification. They're things that require a lot of long-term effort without any immediate payoff. So your brain has a really hard time being inclined to put in the effort for these long-term gains because in your brain's mind, there's no immediate reward. There's no immediate payoff. And if you put that in the context of something you would have done way back then, when you were just trying to survive, putting in a lot of repeated hard work and a lot of repeated effort with no payoff probably would have killed you. And so what do we do in this day and age? Instead of putting in the work for the long-term payoff, we often will just seek out other things that give us that sense of instant gratification. This is things like checking social media, doom scrolling, eating really high sugar snacks, alcohol, drugs, all of these things that create that instant reward, that instant payoff, because that's what your brain's looking for. And so when you start to interact with these things and they give you that instant reward, your brain says, oh, this is important. This is necessary for my survival. I want more of that. I'm motivated to get more of that. And therefore your dopamine pushes you to seek out these things. And this is where you see these kind of repetitive behaviors of things that are not really good for you in the long term, but they give you that immediate reward. So this is one that is going to take some conscious effort for you to reframe the script around. It's going to take consistent mental effort for you to keep pushing through the hard things without getting that immediate reward. And something that will help is I want you to keep reminding yourself in the process of you doing it that just because it's hard right now, just because it feels really hard to start, just because it feels like I'm not immediately being rewarded for what I'm doing, does not mean that it's wrong. It means that you're building something meaningful. And you can actually use this system in your brain to your advantage by adding little rewards throughout the process to keep you going, to keep you motivated, to keep showing up and keep doing the thing. And they don't have to be major. This could be as simple as, let's say you're trying to go to the gym on a regular basis. You're not going to get the immediate reward of having a drastically changed physique overnight. That doesn't happen. You're going to have to keep showing up over the long term without seeing any major differences. But you can reward yourself in little ways after every workout. You could do something like having a tracker. So every time you do a workout, you get to check something off your calendar. Maybe just sitting with yourself in your car for a second in the gym parking lot and just acknowledging that you showed up and did the hard thing and allowing yourself to feel proud for a moment. Maybe after doing so many workouts, you could reward yourself with a fancy coffee or a new workout set. Like, find little ways to drop pieces of instant reward throughout the process of what you're doing so that your brain has that motivation. So your brain says, oh, I want this thing, and I can get it very easily by doing this one hard thing now. So that's how you're going to tap into changing that system and using it to your advantage. The next one I want to talk about is comfort seeking. Comfort seeking is not laziness. It's actually very, very smart. Because what did it mean hundreds of years ago if you were comfortable? Well, it means you were sheltered, means you were well fed, means you were hydrated, means you're getting good sleep, right? All of these things that are necessary for your survival tie into comfort. And so your brain would seek out comfort. And along with that, your brain would also make an effort to conserve energy for you, especially at times when resources were scarce and you didn't know where your next meal was coming from. Your brain purposely trying to conserve as much energy as possible was actually very smart. It's what kept you alive back then. But in this day and age, your brain trying to keep you comfortable and trying to conserve your energy isn't keeping us alive. It's actually just keeping us stuck. We love comfort. Our brains love comfort because comfort is predictable. Comfort is safe. Your brain would rather feel uncomfortable emotionally than feel uncomfortable physically and mentally, because physical and mental discomfort years and years ago meant you would potentially not survive. And that's your brain's whole goal. And so we tend to get really stuck in this cycle of just wanting to be comfortable and not wanting to change things because we like the predictability and we like the safety and we like the kind of nice, warm, cushy feeling of having a very safe routine life. And we tell ourselves lies like, oh, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll start when I'm ready, or I'll start when I feel motivated. And as we just talked about with dopamine, you will likely not feel motivated unless you put better systems in place. I want you to start reframing your thinking around comfort. It feels good in the moment, but it robs you of momentum. And it robs you of the potential things that you could accomplish down the line. Something I like to do to actually tie both of these things, comfort seeking and dopamine versus reward, together in order to propel me towards the things that I want to do, is when I'm planning out my day, if there are things that I need to do that I know are hard, that I know are not going to give me immediate payoff, what I like to do is I like to reward myself with some sort of comfort afterwards. So if I'm planning my day, I'll plan all of the really hard things first thing in the morning. I have the most motivation in the morning. It's going to be easiest to get those things off my plate. So my workouts, recording episodes of this podcast, cleaning the house, trying to get all of these things out of the way as early as possible. And then leaving the kind of free time, if I want to have a bath, if I want to relax for a little bit, if I want to watch a TV show, if I want to do something that is comfortable and that feels safe and that feels predictable, I put that afterwards as the reward for doing what I've done, so that I have the motivation because my brain says, hey, if I do these things, I get this reward, and I have the comfort built in. I just have to get through these obstacles first, and then it's right there. And so it's a lot easier to get through the things that don't reward me immediately, but move the needle for my long-term success. The next one I want to talk about is loss aversion. And this was something that your brain would avoid at all costs. Because again, you losing things back then, losing access to food, losing your shelter, losing the connection to your tribe, all of these things were a huge threat to your survival. And so your brain learned to avoid it at all costs. Loss and failure was the thing to avoid. It was the thing that threatened your life and threatened your well-being. And so any situation that is going to potentially set you up for loss or set you up for failure, your brain wants nothing to do with that because it's a threat to your survival. The problem is, again, in this day and age, loss and failure don't mean the same thing that they did back then. Loss and failure in this day and age are often not in the context of basic survival needs. Loss and failure are usually in the frame of being embarrassed, being seen trying something new, not getting an answer right, or maybe just wasted time and effort. It's not a life and death situation anymore, but your brain still sees it that way. Your brain fears the potential loss more than it values the potential gain. And so this is why oftentimes when we want to pursue something new, we have some dream that we want to accomplish, we have a goal we want to start working towards, and we don't feel like we can get it perfectly right. We feel like there's a chance that we may fail. We may lose some time, we may lose some energy, we may lose what other people thought of us. That feels more threatening than the potential reward of you achieving the thing that you want to achieve. And so this is why your brain pushes you to avoid it, because it doesn't want you to fail. And this triggers things like overthinking, perfectionism, waiting for the perfect time, or waiting to feel ready before you actually pursue anything. And I think we all know how that plays out. You never feel ready. There is no perfect time. And so you never pursue it. You never go after it because you never feel certain that you're going to get it 100% right. There's never a time where there is a guarantee that you're not going to lose anything and you're not going to fail. So you don't go after it at all. And so I think a good way to approach this one is starting to reframe our thinking around failure. We see failure as this really horrible thing because back then it was. It makes sense. We see it as this really awful thing to be avoided. But the way that I like to think about it now is failure is a necessary stepping stone to get to where I want to go. And a way that I find this helpful to think about is, let's say you're here and your goal is way over here. I want you to imagine that there is a finite number of failures that you have to get through in order to get to that end goal. So think about it kind of like a video game. You have a bunch of bad guys and bosses that you have to overcome throughout the level in order to get to the end and actually beat it. And so this is what your failures are. They're the necessary obstacles that you have to move through in order to get to your end goal. And so every time you fail, it's not a loss. It's not a bad thing. It's you beating one more boss on the way to the end of that level. You've gotten one step closer to your goal, right? It's a necessary stepping stone. And when you look at it that way, failure is not a loss. Failure is a win. Failure is a sign that you're doing something right. And you stacking up failure after failure and learning a little bit more and coming back a little bit better, instead of prompting you to throw in the towel and quit, it's going to help you build momentum to get to where you want to go. Okay? The last one I want to talk about is the I'll do it tomorrow chemical loop. I think we are all very familiar with this one of, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow, right? I don't need to worry about that today. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll put it on my to-do list for tomorrow, right? Do you ever do it tomorrow? No, you don't. You put it off for tomorrow, and you put it off for tomorrow, and you keep putting it off, and you keep putting it off. And tomorrow never really comes, does it? Because when it is tomorrow, you don't have the motivation, it doesn't feel comfortable, you don't feel ready, there's potential loss, there's potential failure, and to avoid all of that discomfort, let's do it tomorrow. Right? Just push it off another day. No big deal. But if you push it off for another day and another day, suddenly years go by and you never did it. So why do we do this? Why is this our inclination? Again, going back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, planning for the future was once incredibly useful. It meant safety, it meant preparation, and it meant foresight for what might potentially be coming. It was a really good thing. Your brain felt really good about putting things off for tomorrow, about preparing for tomorrow, about having the foresight to see what might be coming your way and having a plan in place. But now the problem is your brain uses future planning as a replacement for action because it gets the emotional reward without any of the effort, right? You put something on your to-do list for tomorrow, you decide you're going to do it tomorrow. There's a little bit of gratification in that, right? It's like, oh, I've done something, right? I've done something productive. It's on my list for tomorrow. I'm planning to do it. I have a plan for it, right? Amazing. Reward. I feel good. You feel great. You feel like you've done something productive. But there's been no action, right? You haven't actually taken any steps to accomplishing the thing you want to accomplish. But you still got a little bit of payoff. You get the dopamine hit, you get the emotional relief of not having to worry about it, and your brain feels responsible and in control. And so we keep repeating it. We keep doing it because it feels good, right? It's very low effort, and it makes you feel great. So we put it off again. Put it off again. We're so responsible. We're so in control. But nothing's getting done. Because your brain doesn't really care if tomorrow ever comes. It doesn't really care if you actually do the thing tomorrow. It wants the instant relief. It wants the stress of you worrying about this thing to be gone. And so the easiest way to get rid of that stress is just put it on your to-do list for tomorrow. So how can we recognize these lies in real time and actually do something about it? Because your brain did not evolve to tell you the truth. Your brain evolved to tell you what would keep you safe in the moment. This isn't really about fixing your brain. It's about identifying these lies that it tells us and updating it to fit the world that we actually live in. So I'm gonna give you some clues that your brain might be lying to you, might be pushing you to take some of the actions that we just talked about. And the first one is that these lies never sound aggressive. They usually sound very gentle and kind. You deserve a break. Now's not the best time. You'll be better at this later. You're tired today. Let's just take a rest, right? Very gentle, very calm, very kind. Why? Because your brain is great at convincing you to do the things that it wants you to do, right? It's not going to bully you into it. It's not going to make you feel bad. It's gonna just gently caress you with these kind ideas to do the things that it wants you to do. I want you to remember, if it was truly not the time for you to be doing this thing, you wouldn't be thinking about it, right? If you are having reoccurring thoughts about a thing that you need to do, and you're finding that a lot of this kind of soft language is coming up to prompt you to do something else, I want you to take it as a sign that you need to take action. Not tomorrow, not when you feel motivated, not when the time is perfect. You need to take action now. And it doesn't have to be big. You could take one small step towards your goal today. One small step. Maybe it's just finding somebody else who's already pursuing that goal and researching a little bit. Maybe if you are wanting to start working out, maybe it's finding a local gym in your area. If there is a new hobby you're wanting to take on, maybe it's finding classes in your area that are appropriate. You don't even have to sign up for them right away. Just take that first step, take that small action towards it, and then you can sit and feel proud of yourself for it, right? You can give yourself that kind of mental reward of, you know what, fuck yeah, I did it. I took a step towards my goal. I actually took some action. And then you create that little reward. And then you make these systems work for you in a way that's actually productive. The next one is I want you to notice the urge to escape. Change is uncomfortable. Change is uncertain. You growing and evolving in any way requires a lot of uncertainty and unknown. And again, your brain doesn't like that. Your brain finds that really uncomfortable because at one point it was a threat to you. And so it wants to try and redirect you towards things that feel safe. This could look like repeatedly checking your phone or getting stuck doom scrolling instead of doing the things that you need to do. Maybe it's creating busy work for yourself, like cleaning things in the house that don't really need to be clean. Maybe it's eating and putting it off, even though you're not really hungry. You're just doing it to kill time and put off the harder thing that you don't want to do. Maybe it's procrastinating with preparation. So someone who is just constantly researching and trying to be perfectly ready to tackle the thing, but never actually tackling the thing. These are all ways that you escape the discomfort by distracting yourself with something else. I want you to remind yourself that this urge to escape does not mean you're incapable. What it actually means is that you're close. You are on the precipice of growth. You are right on the edge of leveling up who you are. And that's uncomfortable. It's unknown. It's unfamiliar. Lean into that discomfort. Lean into that unknown. You are so close. You are right on the edge of becoming a better version of who you are. But you have to be willing to sit in that discomfort for a little while and not fall back on all of these safe, comfortable distractions. And again, like I just talked about, shrink your tasks. Don't argue with your brain when it puts these thought patterns into practice. Outsmart it. What's the smallest version of this task that you can take on right now? What's the easiest entry point to get you one step closer to your goal? Write one sentence, open the document, put your workout clothes beside your bed, put your running shoes in the car. One thing. Lower that barrier to entry and work with your brain instead of trying to argue with it. And the last one I want you to practice is I want you to start detaching your identity from your feelings. Your feelings are not who you are. They are just a passing thing. You'll often hear people use language like, I'm lazy, I'm not disciplined, I'm not motivated. And you're attaching your identity to these feelings. And you're making that who you are. You're making that your personality. The problem with this is that when you tell yourself this kind of narrative that you are lazy, you're a lazy person, your brain seeks out evidence to confirm that that is true, which is going to reinforce the behavior that made you feel lazy in the first place. And so a very simple reframe that I've heard other people talk about is instead of saying something like, I'm lazy, say, I'm feeling lazy. Instead of saying, I am blank, just say, I am feeling blank. Because it takes away the identity piece. It stops tying that thing to your personality. Because that's not who you are. You are just a human being with human being emotions. Those emotions are not who you are. And detaching your identity from them will make it easier for you to take action and move through them because your brain's not trying to reinforce the narrative that that's the person that you are. Your brain is not the enemy. It's just a little bit outdated. It was built for survival, not fulfillment and growth. And so it requires a little bit more effort for us to chase down these things, but that does not by any means mean that it's impossible. You don't have to eliminate these lies that your brain tells you. Just learn to recognize them, sit in the discomfort, work with them, and choose to act differently anyways. These patterns once kept us alive, but in a world that no longer requires constant survival, we have the opportunity to chase something more, our own personal growth. And choosing growth means learning when not to believe every single thing that our brain tells us. You are capable of more. You are capable of sitting in that discomfort. You are capable of doing hard things over the long term without immediate payoff. You are capable of taking action today instead of constantly putting it off. I believe in you, and you've got this, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you like the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support helps the show reach even more incredible people just like you. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.